come get me and walk me back. But so to go from that to that, and then to just to now, it's just the evolution of him as a person and as an artist and as a producer. He's he obviously, there's other people and other producers that he works with under him, and people that he has working with him. But still, this one thing I always say to people: hey, it's not like he can't make a beat. He still does make a lot of those beats. Hey, that's a common thing I see now. Oh, he's not really making the beats anymore. He can still make a beat. I'm not really reading credits like that to see what he's hands-on and hands-off with. But at the end of the day, production is more about vision than tapping buttons. And even though yes, I do still tap the majority of my own buttons. I can't play a 40-piece orchestra. I can't program a mood the way other people that I know can. I can't program Logic Sense the way some people can. So it's like, I know, Quincy Jones, one of the biggest producers of all time, he wasn't sitting there like, all right, Michael, check this out. All right, Michael, check this out. All right, Michael, check this out. You know what I mean? He's saying, all right, get homeboy on the drums, get homeboy on the guitar, get him to play the keys. This is what I want it to sound like. All right. Cool, there it is. You know what I mean? And so it's like the evolution of him from, as a person, as an artist, and as a producer, is an amazing journey.
Dr. Dre.
Oh man, Dre. He's the doc. He's a surgeon. I mean that literally, surgeon. Like, he knows for his sound, nobody can do what he does better. And if you sonically, he's been able to, like a doctor, pick apart the best parts. You go back to the late '80s. Pick apart the best parts of what made the Bomb Squad so great, and incorporate that with his live instrumentation in his ear and make it sound so sonically full and rich. And then a few years later, surgically pick apart the best parts of P-Funk, and and create what he created then. Again, with other people that he had working with him. But you know what? You get any of those people on their own who he was working with, for the producers that were working under him, musicians that were working under him, none of those dudes ever had the career he had because they didn't have the ear he had. And it's a very surgical thing to be able to pick apart certain pieces and know how to arrange them to create what he's created over the years. And even like when working with me, in my work with him over the years, like, he's tried to mix a couple of my records for me before, and it's never worked out. Like when I did stuff for Game, he tried to mix Kingdom Come, it didn't work out. Just because my approach to making records is different. He's the greatest engineer for his thing, for his sound. So I'd go back and mix the records, and I'd have the mix right where a good Just Blaze mix would sit, but then he would be like, yo, take the snare and increase it 2 dB at 10K. And all of a sudden you do that, and it's just like boom, the record just popped. You know what I mean? Like, so again, it's that surgical ear. That's why I don't think that was his initial idea or approach when he came up with the name Dr. Dre, but it applies. He's got a very surgical ear for when it comes to music, when it comes to mixing and EQing.
Ghostface.
Oh man. Ghost. Fresh. Ghost he was always fresh. Like, even just on the way he used to put his, who else could walk around with a gold eagle on their arm? But be fresh. Like, and the way he used to, the way, like, you just look at the old outfits. When they used to kill it with the Nautica and the Hilfiger and the Polo, the way they used to put all that together, and the way they used to talk about it in their skits, he had crazy visions. The blue and cream. And his rhymes was fresh. Cause a lot of them make no sense, but it sounded fresh. You know, it's just like, he's like, I just feel like he's like that uncle you got that don't age.
Right. Yeah.
You know, like, he looked the same way now as he did back then. He's still fresh. He still got the fresh robe. He melted the eagle down. Now you got the fresh plate on the chest. You know, Ghost is fresh.
You made Girls, Girls, Girls with him in mind too.
Yeah. I originally had made that for Ghost, and I just didn't know each other at the time. You know, so it sat in my hard drive for a year and a half. So when Jay came in and said, anybody got any beats? And I wanted, and hip hop was like, yo, it's gotta be soulful. I was like, oh, soulful, here, Tom Brock, here you go. You know, and he just rapped on it. And when I told Ghost that years later, he said, I knew it! He said, I knew that when we were at Rocket Bells. I knew that, son. He said, that was me the whole day, I heard it. I was like, yeah, that was you. But let me get that anyway, God. Just give me the instrumental, God. Yo, word to God. I gave it to him, I didn't even do anything with it. But he knew.
Cameron, Dipset.
I don't know. That was an interesting time in my life. I mean, I don't think I could come up with I don't even think I could come up with a word for that one. Just, awkward. Probably the best. It's awkward. Because there's no denying that we made great music. So many people to this day tell me, yo, to this day, I really mean it's one of the best records you ever made. You know, there's no denying that. Your Old Boy was a huge record. The Just Fire, the record with Cam Beans and Bleak, is still one of my. When me and Alchemist do the Sound Clash tour, I start off with that record, and it's like pandemonium. But it became awkward because, you know, for obvious reasons. You know what I mean? It was like they had their issues. The whole Rockefeller camp at that point had issues. You know, and it was like, you know, Jay didn't ask me to choose a side. You know, he was just, me and Jay we don't get me wrong, we talked about it, but we never talked about it from the standpoint of it being an issue with us. You know what I mean? He knew what it was, and it just was what it was. Whereas on that side, it was like, yo, you should have went with us. You should have ran with us. Or you should have been Dipset. And I was like, but I'm Dipset just as much as I am State Property, just as much as I am Get Low, just as much as I am whoever, because as far as I'm concerned, we here under one roof. You know, and I love all y'all. You know, it's like family. Not everybody looked at it like that. So like I said, it started to get awkward. And you know, I understand. You know, Cam had his own movement, so it's, you know, nobody who has a movement wants to necessarily have their movement exist within a movement. So I got that. But like I said, it just got awkward. You know, and not to entertain, you know, some of the other negative things that happened around that time, you know, between individuals. It's not necessary to get into because I don't have beef or there's no drama, you know, but there were just definitely a lot of awkward moments because there were a lot of mutual friendships and relationships that just got weird, you know. So, you know, even after the split and everything, you know, there was just a lot of awkward moments, but great music.
Jay Electronica.
Jay Electronica. Friend. Leave it at that. You know, never mind. I met him as a friend. We didn't really necessarily connect for musical purposes. It's just so happened that some great music came out of it. So that's the way I've always viewed him. And you know, as a friend for years, I was always trying to push him, like go in the studio, record, but to go, like, be not for my benefit, because I'm good. But thank you. But I feel like you have something great that you can share with the world. You know what I mean? Like, to the point where I would sometimes corner him into the studio, but door's locked, B. Can't leave. You know, like, so that being said, just from the past and the present to the future, you know, whatever he does, I support him as a friend, you know, you know, as with your friends, with all friends of yours, you have your ups, your downs, you know, your ins and outs and whatnot, and we've definitely had those, you know, but my connection with him, like I said, is more on a friendship level than on a musical level, so I don't touch on the music too much, just as my friend.
You're a product of the tri-state area?
Yes.
What do you feel has to happen in order for this area to become restored to some degree as far as rap music?
It's tough because I think if you look at any movement of anything, whether it's music, art, technology, whatever it is, it always starts somewhere. Any great movement starts somewhere and eventually spreads to the world. And really it's like, you know, you have, I don't think there is, like if you ask somebody to dominate an area, they probably say the South, but it's really not anymore. They had a run, but there are people that are popular from the South, but like the hottest two acts in the world right now come from the Bay Area. Between Odd Future and maybe like Lil B or somebody, you know what I'm saying? Like, those are the two most buzzed about groups in rap. Yeah, and they're from the Bay, you know, they're from Cali. So, you know, but then you have somebody like Kanye who still kills it. He's from all intents and purposes Chicago. Detroit, Eminem is from Detroit. So I feel like it just goes in cycles and it spreads, and I think what really has to happen for New York to gain, I don't necessarily want to see a New York dominated rap game again. You know what I mean? I don't want to see a rap game dominated by anything but good music. You know, it doesn't need to be New York's on top, the South's on top, the West is on top, the Midwest is on top. I would just like to see a game dominated by good music. But in order for New York to gain a foothold into becoming relevant within the soundscape again of hip hop, I think what has to happen is there needs to be a succession of good albums that come from New York because it's like if you look at the last New York resurgence, it wasn't just Enter the Wu-Tang, it wasn't just Ready to Die, it wasn't just Illmatic, it wasn't just Reasonable Doubt. It was the fact that all those albums and others were coming out back to back to back to back to back, and those artists made good records. No, they were all good commercially viable records that were still good music, period. And they stayed rooted in a New York, or at the time you were describing New York sound. I think you would have to have a similar thing. You would have to have the same thing now. I mean, as you think about it, that's how when the South won, that's what they did. It was just record after record after record after record that was coming out, and they were sticking to their sound and their roots. They stopped chasing getting records from a Jay-Z or a Nas or a AZ or a Biggie or whoever. They said, all right, you know what, we're gonna make our own and support our own. Whereas a lot of artists that were from New York, once that happened, instead of sticking to their guns, went and started assimilating into other sounds and whatnot in an attempt to maintain relevance. Which is cool, because I like collaborations, things like, things of that nature. But all of a sudden, nobody was making